Alex says, hey, brother, I watched the State of Local SEO YouTube vid from 526 where you were talking about publishing branded content to the large language models. That's funny. That's perfect follow-up question. Could you give us some examples of a workflow you would use for WordPress, Tumblr, Medium, G site, Strikingly, et cetera, on how you would actually hook those up so you don't have to manually prompt GPT, copy and paste? Well, yeah. I mean, I can't give you any examples here because we're going to run out of time anyways. But like, for example, if you're using like N8N, right? You can have AI agents in there where you can have whatever you're using as a trigger for your content source, whether it's an RSS feed or a direct connection with the platform. So let's say you're using Medium as your content source, for example, or let's go with Blogger, because I don't know if Medium has an RSS feed, but I know Blogger does. I would assume Medium does, but I'm not 100% sure. I know Blogger does though. So let's just say you're using Blogger as your content source. Like that's what you're going to use as your starting point of your content for publishing branded content across multiple platforms. Then you would have the an N8N, you would have the listener, right, which would be listening or looking for a new entry item in the RSS feed, or if it's just a direct connection instead of an RSS trigger, it's looking for a new post published on the blog or blog. Then once it receives that data from that post, whether it's the RSS feed or from the direct connection, then it would push that article into a ChatGPT that with a prompt that then would have instructions to rewrite the article, but keep the the prompt could be as elaborate as you wanted to, but basically rewrite the article, keeping the structure intact, but using entity variants, etc. Which, by the way, you can feed that chat model. If you're in a single industry, you could feed that chat model with all of the entities that are relevant and examples of content, etc., so that it has a database that it can then pull from, so that when it is rewriting content, it has guidelines specifically of how it's going to rewrite the content based upon the data that you input into the chat to prime the chat, so to speak, right? And so now, again, it's just a multi-step automation that can be done within NA and probably others as well, but that's the only one that I've used. And that was, again, it takes the content, then it sends it from the original source, sends it into the chat GPT, tells it to rewrite it with the whatever guidelines you put in the prompt, and then to republish it onto Medium. Then that same piece of content could then be republished, now rewritten again and republished on WordPress.com, Tumblr, etc. So it's not hard to do. You just have to have the application to do it, and then you have to set it all up. And once it's set up, then it can run on autopilot. Each time you publish an article, and by the way, you can even automate publishing content to the original blog that is the trigger, right? You can automate that too. So again, it all comes back to just kind of setting it all up and then test with it and all of that. And then you just kind of refine the prompts and everything to keep making it better as you go, which again, guys, that's if you go into one single industry, it makes all of this so much easier. Imagine trying to do this across 8 industries, like a lot of the local SEOs I know do. They'll work with any client that will look in their direction. Imagine trying to set all this up and all these chats and everything else for all these different industries. Screw all that. I'm going to do it one time, and I'm going to keep making it better and better and better. Okay. And it's going to be, in my opinion, that's a much more efficient way to run a business. Okay. Okay. So anyways, that's a conceptual explanation of how to do that. There's plenty of videos on YouTube, guys, not on our channel, but about how to automate stuff with N8N and how to build AI agents and how to chain those things together and all of that. So just go to YouTube and search for N8N AI agent automation and things like that. And you will find plenty of examples that you can then model to set your own up. Okay.